What you see in front of you is the screen that our users see when they log into EstateAssist. This is our user dashboard. And as you'll see, we start out with some important information that we want to see anytime we open up and start working in a case or working on several cases. Up at the top, of course, we have a link that allows us to create new matters. We have some icons to our current areas of practice. Currently, we have estate administration and guardianships live on the app. Our adoption module is currently in testing and will likely go live next week. And our trust module is in testing and should be up very soon. Below that, we see that we have recent matters and our deadlines. We're going to see something that we're going to learn about later called fiduciary activity and some tasks. And then we do have an area for news and announcements. We try to do our part to keep you educated on things that are happening in the probate world in Ohio. So let's go ahead and take a look first at our estate administration module. As we come into this, one of the first things we see is that EstateAssist allows you to lay out your cases by category or where they currently are in the process of working through. Now, you don't have to do this. You can have all of your information in one big open box, as some other softwares have in the past. But you have the ability to categorize them in terms of where they are in the process of administration. So you see here we have a field for what cases are in intake, what cases are summaries or reliefs. We're into initial pleadings and opening the case, investigating an inventory of assets, things along those lines. So we can break it down. I find this very helpful. Just this morning, I had a roundtable with my probate paralegal, and we just like to go through and look at where each of our cases are in the flow. And in doing that, we can sort of see if things are getting bottlenecked and what needs attention and things of that sort. And of course, with each one, you see some data about the case, the attorney, the county, when it was started, and so on. And of course, we see that we can archive cases. So if we're done with one, but we don't want to delete it entirely, we can save it for the future. Let's go ahead and open a case. We'll go to Harriet's case here today. And by the way, one of the things you'll notice is, of course, all the data in this is fake data. We use some names from history and books and things like that, but everything you're seeing here is made up. You're not seeing my actual clients. And we come to our case dashboard. And the first thing I want you to see here is that we have at the top of the screen this box of just some of the primary case information. EstateAssist wants to make information very accessible to you, very easy to access. And this is sort of our version of the stickers that we used to put on the outside of accordion folders and things like that. If you've been practicing long enough to remember that, we wanted to just have sort of that primary information about your fiduciaries and their contact information and things of that sort. You'll also see that once you select a county for your case, you'll automatically have links created to the court's website and to the local rules. And last count, out of our 88 counties, I think we had websites and local rules for somewhere in the range of 70 of them that had gone live and that we've linked to the app. We also see that we have the ability here, of course, to update the case status as we work through the different parts of the administration. This section with these large icons is sort of the heart of the dashboard. And it's where we're going to go to do the work of administering an estate. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at the case details screen. When you create a new case, you'll select an attorney and you'll select which support staff members you want to be able to access the case. And then you'll get this dashboard automatically created for you by the app. And then you'll have the ability to go into the case details and start filling in information about your decedent, your fiduciary or fiduciaries, surviving spouse, things like that. So this is designed to be information that you'll largely have on the first day that you're creating a case. Of course, some things you'll get a little bit later, like the case number and the date of admission to probate. But of course, the county, the decedent's name, the decedent's biographical information, the surviving spouse information, fiduciary information. Some of these fields are actually going to fill for you automatically. Okay, they're going to pull information from above. So for example, if we enter the surviving spouse, and then we mark that the surviving spouse is also the fiduciary, it's going to automatically pull that information down for us. A little lower, we'll make our bond estimations, right? Our asset information or estimations for bond purposes. And then we can enter in our appraiser information. And by the way, this is always a nice place to pause and point out. Obviously, if you haven't picked up on it yet, EstateAssist is a cloud-based application. What you're seeing here today, I'm doing through a web browser. And so you can open and use EstateAssist on any device that's internet accessible. And in that being the case, many browsers today have automatic filling features. So for example, we oftentimes use this same appraiser for cases. And so his name is going to automatically pop up and fill this field for us. And then we have a place down here to enter common hearings, the dates, and the times. And those are going to fill in, as we'll see later on some other documents. Let's go back out to our case dashboard. Once we've entered all of our case details, the second thing that we can enter are interested persons. Now, any interested persons who showed up as part of the case details screen are automatically going to be created here. So surviving spouse and a fiduciary who's otherwise interested, like they're an heir at law or a vested beneficiary, those people are all going to show up automatically. We're not going to make you type things twice. In fact, that's a pretty strong opinion of ours, that the guiding principle as we build EstateAssist is we're trying to always find a way for you to only touch each information as close to one time as possible. We don't want our users to have to type things in over and over. So whenever you've entered something in one place, we're going to do our best to carry it everywhere else as best we can. But you can also enter new interested persons here. So ones that you haven't entered yet through the case details screen. We just have a simple page where you can enter information about them. And of course, how they relate to the decedent. Some of those 1.0 front and back type questions. You can enter if there's trust information, if it's a trust that's a beneficiary. You have options for indenting your people on your 1.0. And you can start keeping notes about people if there's something that you want to remember about someone. Once we've entered our case details in our interested persons, we're going to be able to go in and start printing pleadings. And again, what we've seen so far, I would consider sort of day one information. So we can go to our pleading screen. And the first thing that we see here is on the left side are Ohio standard probate forms. And we have clear from 1.0 down through into the 29s. And then we have some things like the 45D and SS4, W9, things like that. On the right-hand side, we're going to see Franklin County local forms because we set this case to be in Franklin County. And to anyone that's on the chat today that is from Franklin County, you'll be happy to know we've been working with them as they've been rolling out their new e-filing system. We have all their new updated forms added to the app with the automatic signature language and things like that. But since we're still talking day one information, let's go ahead and start opening some of those day one pleadings. We'll start with our 1.0. And EstateAssist is going to automatically pull the information that we've entered so far, and it's going to complete the document for us just like that. So we entered some names and some addresses and checked a few boxes. We now have our case caption filled in. We have all of our 1.0 front people. We had marked some people as deceased. We had marked some people as having no issue. We had marked some people as being indented as children of a deceased child, things along those lines. And the app filled all that in for us. And then, of course, on the back, we have all of our information about vested beneficiaries. I guess we had marked this case as an intestate at one point, so it's pulling no will. But if we go back and simply change that to testate and save it, we can refresh that and the no will disappears and we're right back to having our people. And then, of course, we have our fiduciaries down here below the signature line. Back to our pleading screen, same thing with 2.0. It's pulled all the biographical information of the decedent. It's added the columns for our fiduciaries. It's added all of our attorney information. And of course, by the way, it's pulled the current judge information. We have an automated database of all the judges, all the courts, all the addresses, all the websites for the courts. And anytime there's a change, we try to respond to that very quickly. One of the great things about having hundreds of users across the state of Ohio is that when they become aware of something, they shoot us an email and we update right away. So when Stark County got a new judge a few months ago, we got an email before he even took the oath, and we were ready to update his name on the documents the first day. No downloading, no updating an application on your computer. Since it's cloud-based, all of that happens automatically. Excuse me. Since we have our 2.0, we can also go to waivers. Now, on our pleadings page, we're going to see waivers that are filled with all of the interested persons. Okay, everybody in their place. We're going to talk more about that here in a few minutes and what the other options are for waivers and notices. And of course, our 4.0 and so on. Everything filled out automatically. We didn't have to do anything to direct anything to the right document. EstateAssist is fully automated in that regard. So once we've entered our case details and entered our interested persons and gone ahead and started those initial pleadings, then we're on to working with assets and disbursements. Actually, sorry, let's pause and look at one more thing. Down here, we've got the deadlines section, which is currently empty. Obviously, the first day we create an estate, we don't have all of the dates of things, but let's say that this case has now been filed. And let's just say that June 12th is our date for admission to probate and the fiduciary's appointment and so on. EstateAssist automatically creates all of our deadlines for us. So by selecting the dates, EstateAssist does the math, it creates all the deadlines, and it puts them right there on your case dashboard to see what's coming up in your estate. Maybe more importantly, if we go back out to our home screen, we now see that Harriet's deadlines have worked into our home screen deadline list. And the home screen deadline list goes backward, I believe it's 1 week, and forward 60 days. So you can always see what's been happening and what's coming up with regard to your case deadlines. Every time you log into the app, you can see, hey, what do I need to be aware of coming up? If we go back to Harriet's case, we can also see that we can add deadlines. So if you like to create your own self-imposed deadlines or made-up deadlines or deadlines for things other than what you file with the court, you can put those in here as well to keep everything on pace, and those will show up throughout the system. All right, while we're there, we might as well take a peek that we also have a place to put tasks in, things that need done, and we can cross them off as we go and get things done. So it's easy to assign things. Somebody's asked in the chat whether or not there's currently a tickler system that notifies upcoming deadlines. Currently, Tammy, what we have is just that it shows up on your dashboard that they're coming up. We do expect that we will be offering probably some kind of email tickler system eventually. And we've already been looking at what's called API integration to make your deadlines integrate with, say, Google Calendar and Microsoft Outlook, and probably Clio at some point. We'll have a list of things where you can have your deadlines automatically work through your regular calendaring systems. I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that we want to completely change how you do your probate work and build an app that really covers every possible thing and makes it as easy as possible for you. So let's go in and start talking about receipts and disbursements. And we're going to start with receipts. We've already entered a bunch of receipts here for Harriet's case. And let's look at a few things about our about our receipt dashboard. First, we can add new receipts up here, and we have some buttons for just sort of the general categories of things so that you're not too overwhelmed when you open one up. If it's going to be a new vehicle or boat, we only want to deal with the information necessary for that. If it's real property, of course, it's a different set of questions, just to make it a little simpler for you when you're doing data entry. We see each of those things listed here. The next thing we see are these little green and red buttons, and those are designed to give you a really simple way to see which of my assets have been dealt with and which have not. I don't know if you've ever had it happen to you. I will sheepishly acknowledge that on one or two occasions in the past, I thought we were ready to close an estate and then realized there was some little asset that I had just forgotten about, and it was sitting in a folder somewhere, and we never got it liquidated. And I had to put things on hold while we went and dealt with that. With EstateAssist, we wanted something very easy that you can look in your case and see, is everything gone to green? Are we ready to wrap this up? Or is there anything still outstanding? The next thing that you see are some disbursement links that are asset specific. So as we're entering things, obviously many assets have a certain instrument that has to be filed just for the disbursement of that asset. And so specifically, we're thinking about vehicles to spouses and boats to spouses, things like that, that need an affidavit of survivorship. Vehicles in counties that use a 9C or something like it, and real estate, which of course uses the 12.0 and 12.1 or whatever the local county versions are. And so as you create things and mark them to be transferred to someone, EstateAssist is going to automatically create those instruments for you. So we mark this Ford F-150 as going to a spouse, and we automatically get the affidavit. And since we have to put that on our 6.0 anyway, we figured, why don't we just automate it so you can print that up and hand it to your client and make their life that much easier when they head down to the title office to switch the title over. Vehicles. We've got a 9CE. This is the new form with the judge's signature page referenced, and things are checked and marked and ready to go. Or the 9.0C, it's going to pull all the vehicle information and fill this in for you automatically. Similarly with real estate, our 12.0 creates with everything checked and filled and ready to go. And we have the 12.1A E here in Franklin County now. And so we had marked this as going to Calvin, and it lists his name and his address and the interest that he's going to receive, and it pulls in the property description and all the things that it needs to fill to make this as printable as possible. I would tell you that in the state standard pleadings, we're probably, at least in the 1.0 through 13s, we would estimate that your documents are going to automatically fill somewhere in the upper 80s or low 90%. You're going to have very little that you need to type in by hand. But I will also pause to remind you and point out, EstateAssist is producing everything in fillable PDFs that we get from the courts. And so you always do have the ability to enter more information by hand if you choose to. The next thing that we see, a couple things that we see here, back to the receipts dashboard. One is a disposition link. This is simply the idea that we wanted people to be able to jump quickly into their information. So, for example, this PNC checking account, if we went to the bank and liquidated that, we can quickly jump into the disposition section. That just jumped us further down that asset screen, right to the section that we update to say this account was transferred or it was liquidated and deposited. If we mark it as deposited, we can select which account in the estate it was deposited into, the date of liquidation, things like that. And by the way, much of that fills in automatically by default, but you can specify different dates and outcomes depending
You
on
want some of these?
situation.
Take them with you because I need them to be
I
away from me.
glossed over there
Not a
saying if
lot
we head
left,
to the
promise.
bank and liquidate that account, obviously dealing with financial institutions is a really big issue in our work of administering estates. And correspondence in general, oh, somebody with a noise issue here, just one second. There we go, that should resolve that. Thanks for letting me know that. So if we're dealing with financial institutions, this is the first example that we come to about the need for correspondence in doing probate work. And if you're like me, you probably over the years have developed different template letters for different things. And then depending on where you are in being sort of technologically advanced, maybe you're typing into those, maybe you're cutting and pasting, maybe you've created some automations to fill them in. We wanted to take everything and build the most powerful automated correspondence features that we could to this point. And so here's what we have developed. We have created automated letters for a number of things throughout the probate process. And the first one that we're going to see here is related to assets, specifically financial institutions. Now, we understand you have no interest in just some cookie cutter PDF for correspondence, and you sure don't want my content or my letterhead. So when we developed this, we built something that allows you to create your letters on your letterhead using your language. And we provide you a set of instructions for putting in variable fields. It's very easy. You're just typing in a few characters, and depending on which characters you put in your letter, it'll pull different information from your cases. And so what you're about to see are some letters that we've created as templates. They have these variable fields. We've uploaded them to our account, and now EstateAssist is automatically going to fill them. So we'll start with this PNC checking account. We've entered, actually, wait, let's use a different one because that doesn't have an address in it. PNC savings, here we go. So we've entered the account information and the bank's address here. And over here, we have a series of letters that we've created. And so letter number 1, I click that, it's going to take us out to Microsoft Word, and look at what we have. Attorney Finch's letter. On his letterhead, it pulls the bank information, it pulls the estate information, the date of death, the attorney's information, signature block information. It even automatically carbon copied to our fiduciaries. You have the ability to create all your own letters, upload them, and EstateAssist is going to fill them in for you. So now, when we enter, say, 5 financial accounts on, as soon as we have our 4.5, we can kick out those letters in literally about a minute. They're just ready to go, automatically ready to print. And we give you the ability to put several in here. So right now I've got 1, 2, 3. The first one is our date of death value letter that says, hey, financial institution, this person passed away, we need information. The second one is the, hey, come on, why haven't you given it to us yet? And then the third one right now on this screen is a request for liquidation of the account. And you can have up to 5 letters in this column for any number of purposes. And we give you instructions and training on how to create those letters and how to upload them. and they save you a lot of time. And I'm going to show you a couple more examples here in a couple minutes. So those are our receipts on our receipt screen. Next, we're going to go over to our disbursement screen. So again, we have a button at the top to create a new disbursement. We just put a description, who it's going to, the amount, so on. If we have multiple financial accounts in the estate, we have the ability to automatically select which account it's coming from. Or if it's not coming from an account at all, so say an inheritance of an asset or something. And so we can select which account it comes out from, and then of course we select what type of disbursement for recapitulation purposes on our 13.0. And as is always the case, we can put notes about it, anything we want to keep track of in the future. And so we see all of our disbursements down through here, what they are, the voucher number, and so on. By the way, you see this little RV, that is for receipt voucher. And this is just a great example. We're constantly building and developing and improving the app. And we had a user reach out to us. They used a previous probate software that I also used to use. And that probate software prepared this voucher instrument for people to sign as a receipt. And of course, there are a few probate courts that expect that. You have to turn something in saying people have received things. And so EstateAssist is automatically going to create things like that. And I only point it out because that's a great example of a user who really wanted something based on another experience, and we were happy to add that. So if we go back out to our dashboard for the case, if we've been entering receipts and we've been marking what happens to them when we liquidate them, and if we've been entering disbursements and we've been entering where those funds come from, then the app has a lot of powerful information for accounting purposes. And so let's take a look at a few things that the app allows us to do now. First, of course, we can go back to our pleading screen, and our next level, phase 2, financial pleadings are all automatically filled. EstateAssist took all the receipts and categorized them, calculated the totals, and put them in the right places, marked the spousal vehicles, put in the fiduciary and attorney information, appraiser, and so on. Similarly, it provided us with our 6.1. Everything is categorized. We indent, we provide headers for the different categories so that it matches up with our 6.0 very well. It marks what things are appraised, values, and so on. And so we start seeing those financial instruments fill in automatically. Second, if we've been marking all the accounts, their initial values, what gets deposited in, what gets withdrawn out, then we sat down one day and said, we need account registers for things. And again, my experience over the years, we've used everything from paper check registers to Word documents to Excel spreadsheets to QuickBooks. If you name it, we've used it at some point in an estate to try to track the flow of money in and out. And at EstateAssist, we're trying to cover every single aspect of this area of law. So we said, if we have all the data from receipts and disbursements, let's use it. So we can go to our account register screen, and EstateAssist is just automatically going to keep a running ledger for us. And it's just going to run down through with all the deposits and all the withdrawals. This is the estate account. We can also select this for any other account in the estate. Initial balance, plus receipts, minus disbursements, and we have a register running for every account. And of course, that allows us to really easily every month take a look. That allows us really easily every month to take a look at the bank statements and reconcile everything. It also allows us to see our cash balance at any time. One thing that I found, I carry an iPad when I go in to meet with my clients, and I've become amazed at how many times, maybe I just didn't realize it before, but I will meet with a client and they'll ask me, how much cash do we have on hand in the estate? especially in the early phases, because of course they want to get the funeral bill paid, or they want to get somebody reimbursed, or there are some utility bills that need paid, and they're, somewhat anxious to get that done. And in the past, I would always have to, find my probate paralegal to, check through them and see what has come in and what hasn't. With EstateAssist, I can pull out my iPad, go straight to the account register and see exactly what we've liquidated and exactly what we have in the account. And it's just incredibly efficient. Now, somebody's asked the question, if there's a discrepancy between a state standard form and a local form, how does the app know which one to use? And to go back to the pleading screen, as you'll see, all the forms are here. We leave it to you to choose which one to use. So you have them all listed and you can select, oh, I need this one and this one and this one. Now, on that note, as a little further answer to your question, we do have some plans in the future. One, we're going to be adding more in the way of batch printing, where you can select multiple at once to print. And two, we do want to create some things in the way of checklists. I'm a big advocate of checklists, and I think we will have some checklists. I know some counties have started to produce checklists of what they want. But to directly answer your question right now, you get to pick which forms you want. You simply open them, print them, and go, or open them and e-send them and go. All right. So we've started to see some financial things in the way that the app gives you power over all the money and tracking and up to the moment information. Let's look at a few more things. Next, let's talk about notices and waivers. Earlier on, we saw a waiver on the pleading screen that had everybody in the estate. And of course, sometimes we do that, right? We have the whole family come by the office to sign the waivers, or the executor takes them out to have people sign and return. But we also know that oftentimes we want to personalize things to people. And so we can go to our notice and waiver and consent screen. For every interested person that we've created, the app is automatically going to create this box of forms. And that box of forms is all personalized to the person automatically. So back to that 2.1 that we saw earlier on the pleading screen, which had everybody on it. Here we can go to the 2.1 and it's just for this person. So we can send just a personalized one to that person. Or of course, notices. My 2.2 automatically is filled with that person's name and address and the date of admission and the court information and so on. Everything filled and ready to go. We also have the local forms down here automatically filled with the person's information. So we've given you the group versions of everything and those personalized, individualized versions of everything. We also come down here to the bottom of the box and we see your interested person letters. Earlier, we saw your letters related to financial institutions on the receipt screen. Here, we see letters that you've uploaded for interested persons, and you can have as many of these as you want. So as you can see, we've got an introductory letter for intestate estates, an introductory letter for testate estates, a letter for the inventory and appraisal. These are just different letters that the attorney has authored, and the app automatically fills with information ready to go, whatever your content is that you'd want to notify people of. And we see here, we even have an envelope template that's automatically going to pull the information and the recipient's information so that you can even just print your envelopes without having to prepare those every time. Back to the note of correspondence, we do have a general correspondence screen where you can just put general miscellaneous correspondence related to your state. So for example, we have a miscellaneous cover letter for the court that you can just easily print up to file things with the court and so on. We have a place for case notes. if you type in case notes here and save it, it's going to automatically date stamp those and put the initials of the person who created the note and just have a running list so that as somebody's working in your estate and you want to go just sort of see what's been going on, or you want to remind yourself of something you've worked on, you're able to just put those things in here and it's going to go ahead and fill them. So I could put here, had a meeting with everybody to talk about the estate administration today. And yes, if you wonder what wizardry that was, I did just talk and have it fill the field automatically, which is a superpower in my opinion. We hit save the note and it adds it right down here with today's date and the initials of the attorney. That little feature to be able to talk into fields, that one's not our own. That is another application called WhisperFlow. If you want that later, shoot me an email and I'll send you information on it. That is a wildly powerful app that works great with EstateAssist and allows you to start entering information by voice rather than by typing. And it is an absolute game changer in my practice. All right. Let's talk a little bit more about financial information. We've seen all the things we've been entering. We've already seen the account register and how it takes care of that. Let's talk about accountings. Obviously, at the end of an estate administration, we need to account for everything. And sometimes we have to do partial accountings throughout an estate administration. And so EstateAssist automates that process for you as well. We give you some different formatting options depending on how you like your 13.1 to look. We give you an automatic set of buttons that allow you to select your primary 13 documents with all of the data in the case. But we also allow you to create new accounts for whatever type, partial, final and distributive, and so on. And you can pick a start date and an end date. So especially, of course, for partial. So the partial, you're going to pick the opening date, then the date that it's being signed now. And then EstateAssist is automatically going to create those for you. And you can have as many accounts as you want. And each time it creates you the links automatically. And I can open those up and it just pulls all the data. If this one was a partial, it's going to show the start date, the end date, prior fees that have been paid out, and then of course our recapitulation information. 13.1, same thing. Everything's going to lay out, automatically entered. We have options for how we like to show gains and losses and things like that. Our 13.2 is automatically going to show what we still have in hands. If you keep your assets and disbursements updated, right? If you enter them, if you mark their liquidations, if you enter what's being paid out, EstateAssist is going to do all the work for you, and you are going to have virtually single click and print pleadings, including your accountings, which is a heck of a lot better than when I used to dump out a bunch of folders on my desk and start weeding through receipts at the end of an administration. Again, part of these video conferences is me just confessing some things. All right, as we said earlier, down at the bottom, we have our deadlines, we have our tasks features, okay? So that's a quick run through of an estate administration and all of the primary things that we're doing there. Let me take you out and just show you one more quick thing here, and then I can answer any questions. And for this, we're actually going to go over to our guardianship module because I think guardianships prove this point a lot better. So, one of the things that we realized or thought a lot about as we were creating EstateAssist was that there's certainly a lot of duplication of work in the probate world. And I think the great example of it in the guardianship realm is that oftentimes we create these guardianships, say a guardianship of an estate, and our guardian is out there with the checkbook, writing checks, paying bills, sometimes with court permission, sometimes not. And then, if you're like us, they bring in a shoebox with all these receipts and statements and they say, hey, it's been a couple years, please account for all this for me. And that's a really unhealthy and inefficient way to deal with this stuff. And as I started sharing that concern and that we were coming up with solutions for it, I started having users tell us, well, we have the same thing happen in estate administrations because we hand out our checkbook for the estate account. And we have people, writing checks, and then it's, we're catching up afterward. And we wanted to do away with that issue. And so here's what we came up with. We've created fiduciary portals that allow you to empower your fiduciaries to enter some information for you in your estates if they're out there doing some of the work by themselves. And in the guardianship realm, here's what that's going to look like. If we go into our guardianship dashboard for one of our cases, here's Mary Poppins' case. We again have a bunch of icons, very similar to what we had for estate administrations, though we've added an education icon so that we can track the guardians' education courses that they have to do each year and things like that. And let's go over to our user access screen. Now, one of the things you'll find is the user access screen allows you to reassign the case to a different attorney and decide which support staff are on it. Just some of those normal who gets to access this case and who doesn't. But down here, we come to a place for our fiduciary, or in this case, guardians portal. And so I'm going to click this link, which is automatically going to copy it for us so I could email it out to the guardian. And here's Bert and his information. I'm just going to go ahead and put in the link and go to this. So here's our guardian's login. And again, there's one very similar to this for fiduciaries of estate administrations too. And I'm going to go ahead and grab Bert's email address because I'm Bert logging in. I'm going to enter the password that we set. And Bert's going to log in. And when Bert logs in, he gets a portal that is personalized to him with all of the guardianships that he is on as guardian. We made it available for multiple in case you have any professional guardians, or if you are a guardian for several people, as I sometimes serve in my local court. So Bert can now go into the case, and we have a few things that Bert might need to do. So Bert can enter expenditures. All right, if Bert's cutting checks, he can add a new expenditure, who it goes to, what account it came from, and so on. And one of the things we added is this little section that said, hey, is this one approved by the court, Bert? And Bert has the options of saying unsure, not approved, and then it lists all the things that have been approved. And let's see where that comes from. We have expenditure requests. So Bert can enter a new request for what he wants. All right, so let's say he wants to add a cellular phone bill let's do 65, we'll do $75 a month because that's getting more expensive, right? And we're going to make it monthly and save. So now he has this pending request for an expenditure. We're going to come back to that in just a second. Further down, he can enter his education courses, and he can enter the details of his annual guardian's plan for the person and for the estate of the guardian, or of the ward rather. So Bert has this nice little place where he can be entering the things that he's doing. By the way, he's not seeing the rest of your case. He's not seeing your data. He's seeing these things as he's entering them. And now we see some really cool powers that come from that. All right. So first, let's go clear back out to our dashboard. When we log in the morning and start our work, here's our fiduciary activity field. And it says, hey, in the Mary Poppins case, you have an expenditure request. And so now I know, right? When I'm drinking my coffee in the morning, I can see, oh, one of my guardians needs us to get an expenditure approved. All right. And somebody asks, oh, yep, I'm about to show you the answer to your question. Hang with me, Tammy. So we go back to Mary's case now. So I've now been made aware that Bert needs an expenditure to be made. Let's go to our expenditure section. All right. And we can go to our request screen. All right. And we see here, there it is. All right. There's the request that Bert entered. It's right here on my dashboard, ready to be dealt with. All right. So I can go to my pleading screen and my 15.7, look at that. Cell phone bill, $75 a month, Bert's name, check boxes, everything ready to go. Bert entered the information. All I have to do is print up the document for his signature and submit to the court. But there's more. Because once that goes into the court, we want to keep track of it, right? So now I can mark it as app filed. And look at that, it moves down to filed with the court. And the date it was filed, today, 6/20. And then I can mark it as approved or denied. So let's go ahead and mark it as approved. And now it's on our list of approved expenditures. And what's really cool about that is, one, we kept our decks clean, right, about these things going through the process. So we don't, have to worry, hey, have we heard back on that or haven't we? We can go right to our dashboard and see what the status is. But we've also now created some guardrails for Bert, because look at what happens. Next time he goes in to make an expenditure, he says, oh, is this approved? Oh yeah, there it is, cell phone bill. So we've created this kind of safe harbor for Bert. And if Bert would have made this entry and marked it as, no, that's not approved, or I'm unsure, then that was going to show up out there on our fiduciary screen. Or the disbursement that I entered this morning for Harriet's case, things that our executors and guardians are doing, we give you a way to kind of see that as it's happening so that you can more easily intervene or keep their things moving. If they're going to be doing this work anyway, it's not a lot to ask them to just punch it into a computer screen every once in a while. And then you don't have to retype it all. You don't have to go through and clean it all up. You don't have to enter it all in yourself. Instead, you can easily just bring these documents up, kick out the forms, and keep track of what's happening in your estates. And yes, the same was true for education courses, the Guardian's Plan. All those things are going to automatically fill. See, so here we entered a course, Caring for Your Ward. Here's our 27.2, filled in with all the information that Bert entered. He took a course called Caring for Your Ward on this date from the Supreme Court. So we really try to greatly minimize the amount of data entry and things like that you have to do. And, I will tell you, the other day we received an email from one of our users. We had responded to a question for her, and she said to us, quote, "This software has taken a lot of work off my plate." And that's about the highest form of compliment that we can receive with what we're doing with EstateAssist. We want to build something that takes a lot of work off your plate. We want you to be playing from ahead, in charge of your data and information, and keeping things moving for your clients so that they're happier. And we believe that if we do that, it's going to give you more free time to communicate with them, to meet with them, to strategize about cases, and do all the things that need to be done to keep your cases moving and keep people as happy as possible. So those are really the goals we have. So that's EstateAssist in a nutshell. The adoption module that's about to release is very similar, very much the same layout and the same kinds of powers. And of course, the trust administration is almost identical to estate administration, but of course, with some different pleadings and some different things like that. And somebody asked about insolvency. Yes, we are getting ready. We're working on the insolvency stuff to try to get it to do those calculations of sort of the division of things within a grouping. And I think we're going to have that up before long, probably in a couple months from now. Any other questions at all? Yep, somebody asked about adoptions. I think those are going to be up next week. The module exists. In fact, we've used it in some court cases. We're just fine tuning a few things, and we will have that released here very soon. All right, somebody asked about dates and deadlines. If you make up a deadline, is it case specific or does it apply across all matters? It is case specific. So yeah, if you create a new deadline, you'd create it for that case. We could think about giving you the option of case specific ones. That's an interesting, or broader, creating them for all of your cases. That's an interesting question, Catherine. We'll have to think about that. Like, we could create kind of a template of, I want this deadline in all my cases. That's an interesting idea. It asked if there is a fee. Somebody asked, is there a fee for all areas or separate subscriptions? And so the answer to that is EstateAssist is a flat fee per user. You do have to have an account for each of the attorneys in your firm. Paralegal accounts are more optional, but for attorneys, it's $49 a month. For paralegals, it's $29. And there are no upcharges. There are no additional or hidden costs. We don't charge extra for different modules. We are trying to build a holistic solution to all of your probate needs for a flat fee. Oh, somebody asked where the hearing dates populate. Excellent question. Let's jump back over to that for a second. So when we enter hearing dates at the bottom of our case details, so of course, as those get set, whatever ones, you just selected on the calendar, put a date and a time and so on. And then those are going to start filling in several places, and specifically, of course, on pleadings. Any pleading, I'm trying to think of one. Here we go. 4.4, it automatically pulls the date and time and puts it right in there for you to send this over to the court to sign. Notices, if there's a notice of hearing. Anywhere that there is a hearing in a pleading, we've tried to automate it so you fill it in the one place on your case details, and it's going to fill everywhere on your pleading, so you don't have to type those in by hand. Yep, somebody asked about the letters. I will go back to those in just a second, Julia. Hang tight. Okay, somebody asked for the PDFs, if you save them, could you then open them using another application like Foxit or Adobe or something like that? And Christy, generally, yes, the answer is yes. Now, with that said, the answer is yes, you can save them and you can open them in other documents and things like that. But I would also tell you, if you're editing your pleadings with any kind of frequency, we want to hear about it. And let me give you an example. I had one of our users who does litigation. And they reached out, they said, yeah, every time we open an estate, or by and large, we come to that section on the 4.0 for bond, and none of the answers apply to us. So we're always typing on there, open the estate for litigation purposes, something like that. And, once they told us that, we're like, well, that seems like a stupid thing to have to keep retyping all the time. And so now we can go and in our case details, we can opening estate for litigation research. It's probably not a great term for it, but that's what we're going to use because I'm not really a litigator. And now when we go back to our 4.0 and we refresh it, look at that. It automatically creates a little checkbox and types that information in. That's not part of the state standard form, but we had people typing that in so many times. We said, hey, just show us what you want. And we built it in for you. And if you're having that experience, we tell you to do the same thing. If there are things you're personalizing, let us know because we want to help you and other people automate that so you don't have to do it anymore. Okay, somebody asked if it's best to use this when you're opening a new estate, or can you try to use it when you have an estate that's already open or about ready to close? And, Nancy, I would tell you, when we first launched this, I've got a pretty fair number of open estates at any given time. And for the most part, we went ahead and just sat down and said, let's go ahead and enter, at least the estates that are going on for any period of time yet. Let's just enter the data and start using the more powerful tool. Yes, we had a few that were maybe close to finalizing, and so we kept them in our old software. But at the end of the day, just entering the receipts and entering the disbursements really didn't take that much time. It's pretty quick. And now we had everything streamlined and faster, and that's what we were going for. Also, and I cannot tell you how much respect I have for the people who have built probate software in Ohio in the past. Um, I understand it is a greatly difficult, challenging thing to do. But I will also say that we came to just not trust putting data into old legacy software. I had just heard too many stories of people who said that they had some of the old desktop applications or one specifically, and one day they came in and their computer died or the software crashed and they just couldn't access it anymore. So as soon as we could move to a cloud-based solution, we wanted to do that. And on that note, I will tell everybody that, EstateAssist is not only cloud-based, but we use the Amazon AWS servers. Everything is backed up throughout the day repeatedly. It's also, we make offsite backups to multiple systems. We have a redundancy with an extra app that's hidden on another server. Everything is security tested and penetration tested. Also, you can use it without even using account numbers if you didn't want to. But the point is, everything is wildly safe, and including backups. So if my laptop died right now, I could head down to the store, buy another one, and log right into EstateAssist with all my data ready to go. All right. Okay. Somebody asked about being able to see all of my cases in one box instead of broken down into the different ones. And yeah, all that is, well, the simple answer is don't categorize them. So, for example, see, we have this opening box up here. These are ones that are not categorized. So now I'm going to go into Holden. I'm going to uncategorize him. And now he's up there. So if I didn't categorize all these ones down here, you would just see one big field of all your cases. That's how that would work. So yeah, just don't categorize them and they won't be categorized. They'll all just be in that one big list, which is fine. Somebody asked if this video is going to be available on the YouTube channel. Probably so. We try to put these up. We are recording it. I think we had a little bit of a rough start, but we'll clean it up a little bit and get this put up. And we're trying to keep putting up new ones as we update things. Somebody asked if we have domestic relations pleadings on this. No, not at this time. As of now, EstateAssist is designed for probate work and estate administration work. And what that looks like to us at this moment is probate administration for estates, trust administration, guardianships, adoptions, name changes. We will be adding estate tax filings and returns and things of that sort. And we are going to be launching into some real estate related things before long, more in the way of affidavits, deeds, and land sale proceedings. And that's sort of where our focus is at this moment. I'm not going to say that we're not going to broaden it to some other things, but we want to make the probate world perfect first. Somebody asked if you can alphabetize the list. Yes, you can. And you can do that by first name or by last name through your administration settings. Somebody asked if we have all 88 counties. So first, Robin, most important answer is we will. Without question, we will have all 88 counties. That is really fundamental to our design. We believe that it is, we don't believe you can create probate software in Ohio that doesn't have all the local forms on it. It is a disservice to our users to have you going and filling in PDFs on the side from the court website. So we are going to have all 88 counties. We have been communicating with a lot of the counties regularly and have a system built out to do that automatically, probably quarterly moving forward. We also, by the way, have a team. This is not just me. I think it's important that people understand that I also think it's a disservice to users to have software that only relies on one person. We have a team of people that work on this in various capacities and systems to make sure that nothing's riding on just one person and their availability. But then to your question about counties, currently we're at about 21 or 22. And you ask about Geauga and Ashtabula. So let's see here. Geauga is currently in process. We currently have, let's see here. Geauga, we have 140 local forms that are getting ready to go up. That's probably going to happen in a couple weeks here, but those are all, looks like they're about 90% prepped. There'll be about 140 of those. And then Ashtabula is not up yet, but I know off the top of my head, Ashtabula only has about 30 local forms, so that won't be a big deal for those to go up. We've been going largely in order based on census, right? We're trying to go with the largest counties to cover the most population and then working our way down as we go. Somebody asked when we expect to have the 706. I'm going to guess that's going to be late this year or early next year, Jan. Yep, somebody asked about the video. Yes, this will be recorded. It is being recorded, and we try to post these up on the YouTube channel, which has probably 20 or 30 different videos, from small ones about individual tasks up to these big, larger walkthroughs. We're also getting ready to launch a new frequently asked question page, and that'll be available linked on the site soon so that you can see a lot more. Hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? Somebody asked about the letters. Let's go back and take a quick look at some correspondence examples. And while we have a minute, I'll just show you how we do this sort of functionally. If I go to my admin screen, and you can make whoever you want in your firm administrators. You can have everybody in your firm could be an administrator if you want. There's no expense to that, no extra fee. We start out with your first user as an administrator, and then we add more as we go, or you can add more as you go. But if we go to this correspondence screen, this is the one for estate administrations. We provide you with this variable sheet. And these are those variable fields that I told you about earlier. Bracket, bracket, space, identifier, space, bracket, bracket. And we give you the definition of what each of these does. So you can just copy these and put them right into your letters in Word and save it. And we'll probably at some point go ahead and just put up some of our example letters that you could download and tweak if you wanted yourself. But the point is, you put these variable fields in. We've got a couple pages of them for estate administrations. I think it's a little bit fewer for guardianships. And then you upload them. And you tell the app what kind it is. Is this a letter for interested persons or for financial accounts or whatever? And then you upload them, and they get categorized in those different places. And let's see if this shows us. Yeah, so this gives you an example of what this looks like, right? So this is an example template that I just created on the computer, putting in those variable fields throughout, right? And then once those are uploaded, they go in the places for those different categories. So we see general, interested persons, financial accounts, and so on. And now if I go back out to Harriet's case, the financial letters show up on our receipt screen next to the financial accounts. So I've created 3 of those and uploaded them. You saw what it looked like with the brackets, but here it is all filled in automatically. The app just pulls the data and puts it in your letters automatically. I don't care how smooth you thought you were at copying and pasting. Nothing you have is that fast. Uh, we pull your information automatically, again, with the goal of you ever typing anything only one time if possible. Okay, here's an example of a liquidation letter. We didn't add a case or a letterhead on that one. So, and then similarly, if we go to our notice, waiver, and consent screen, we see the interested person letters. So we created a letter for, introductory letter for an intestate estate, introductory letter for a testate estate. Here's a 6-point or an inventory and appraisal letter. Dear Ms. Stowe, right? It pulls her name, it pulls her uh, uh, salutation. It's got, what we would want to tell somebody about the process of an inventory. And if you missed it earlier, we even created a template for an envelope. Now, this one still has my firm information on it, but we made a template for an envelope, and there it is. It just pulls her information automatically and fills it in. So all you have to do is hit print and everything's ready to go. And again, I'll point out everything right now is an individual click and print or click and send, but we will be adding some more in the way of batch features. The next level of this is click a button and print all of your letters, right? Or all of your notices or waivers. All right, somebody asked,